On their 20th anniversary, Millionaire reveals hidden secret. His secretary expects his child. The grand ballroom sparkled under the soft golden lights, laughter echoing like a joyous symphony as George Thompson stood at the center of it all, his heart swelling with pride. Friends and family gathered around him and his wife Sarah, a portrait of love and resilience after 2 decades of marriage. The romantic ambience enveloped them, adorned with flowers that told tales of their life together and memories made. It was a night of celebration, a tribute to the American dream they had built together. George's rise from humble beginnings to millionaire status admired by all. But beneath the laughter and clinking glasses, a storm brewed within George. He forced a smile, but guilt gnawed at him as he thought of his secretary Lisa. Her sudden pregnancy, a shock stronger than any corporate merger, tore at the seams of his tightly knit world. Each laugh from Sarah felt weighted, each joyous toast a reminder of the lie resting on his shoulders, a potential child waiting in the wings, filled with possibilities that now jeopardized everything he held dear. "George, come here." Sarah's voice pierced through the haze. He caught her eye and noticed the glow on her face, so full of hope, yet somehow distant. "You remember that time we built the treehouse with the kids? I almost fell off the ladder." The crowd erupted with laughter, but George felt the flush of guilt rise to his cheeks, the memories mixing with the reality of his secret. As the evening wore on, each heartfelt story piled onto George's conscience, threatening to bury him alive. He glanced over to Lisa across the room, her smile bright but distant. The walls of the banquet hall felt like they were closing in, each corner reminding him of the pressures he faced his role as a husband, a father, a respected businessman. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The moment reached a peak when Sarah turned to him, eyes searching, concern brewing. "You've been distant, George. Is there something you haven't told me?" Her voice trembled as it tremored through him. The festive atmosphere stopped cold, like a record scratched abruptly. "What's wrong?" Friends whispered, exchanging glances as if sensing the tension about to explode. George's chest tightened. Fragile tendrils of guilt twisted deeper inside him. "Sarah," the words became a lump, a silent scream clawing for escape. The truth loomed like a dark cloud, ready to unleash a storm. Suddenly, Sarah's voice escalated. "Is it Lisa? You have to be honest with me." Her tremor swept through the room, freezing laughter and sparking panic. The weight of honesty surged like an impending flood. George stood before them, trembling, tethered between the love he had forged with Sarah and the consequences burgeoning with Lisa. His heart raced, and every expression in the room blurred as he stared into Sarah's pleading eyes. In that moment, every cherished memory hung like a fragile ornament, waiting to shatter at his next words. The choice was agonizing, the stakes immense: his family's honor, his reputation, and the life of a child unborn. What would he choose? Could he find the strength to face what loomed at that pivotal moment? George felt his breath hitch in his throat. Everything around him faded: the laughter, the music, the clinking glassware, until it all blurred into a distant hum. The faces in the crowd twisted into a swirl of worry and confusion, but all he could focus on was Sarah's eyes, wide with fear. They held so much love, but right now they were flooded with something else: betrayal. "George, please." Her voice was a fragile whisper. "I need to know." Time seemed to stretch painfully, as if the world had paused to allow him this moment of reckoning. He could feel every heartbeat thrum in his chest, pounding like a desperate drum. What kind of man was he about to become? The truth tangled in his mind, swirling like the colors of the rainbow just before it fades. He could feel the floor beneath him shift, almost like standing at the edge of a cliff, teetering between his old life and the unknown depths below. As he opened his mouth, his resolve wavered. "Sarah, I love you. I've always loved you." The room remained still as George continued, each word drawn out like a heavy stone. "But I made a mistake. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Lisa is expecting my child." Gasps punctuated the silence, and he heard the sharp intake of breath from Sarah. It cut through him, a visceral reminder of the raw pain he was about to inflict. For a moment, chaos erupted. Friends moved closer, some reaching for Sarah, others looking at George with shock and pity. The bubble of celebration around them burst, and he felt himself sinking into a whirlwind of emotions. Sarah's expression shifted, disbelief washing over her like a tidal wave. You what? I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a terrible choice on my part. The words tumbled out in a frantic rush, each one an attempt to grasp for the remnants of love still lingering in the air between them. How could you do this to us? Her voice cracked, slicing into him with a pain he'd never known. For all their years together, their shared life, this moment felt like a cruel turn of fate. Tears filled her eyes, swirling in a maelstrom of hurt and anger. Those emerald green pools, so familiar and comforting, now reflected stark betrayal. I trusted you, George. We built a life, our life. I know. He stepped forward, pleading with her to see the hurt in his own eyes. But his words felt futile. Do you know what you've done? Sarah shot back, her voice rising. A child? With her? How could you just? The disbelief turned into a harsh judgment, an accusation that pushed him further into the shadows. With shaking hands, George reached out for her. Sarah, please listen. I never wanted any of this. I made a mistake, but it doesn't change my love for you. We can get through this. But each word hung heavy, filled with weight that threatened to pull him to the ground. He looked over at Lisa, standing at the edge of the crowd, eyes downcast, a haunting reminder of choices made. You think we can just go back to how it was? You have ruined everything. Please just give me a chance to fix this. George's heart bore the burden of desperation. Somewhere deep within him, a flicker of hope emerged. Could he find a way to reconcile his actions? But as Sarah turned away, realization washed over him. There was no easy fix, no swift escape from the heartache that now surrounded them. He felt lost, standing at the crossroads of loyalty and betrayal, desperately clinging to the hope that love could triumph against the odds. Would Sarah find it in her heart to forgive him, or had he destroyed everything they built? The future lay shrouded in uncertainty, leaving George with a chilling sense of dread. As if on cue, the ballroom grew quiet again, the air thick with tension. Deep down, he understood just how much had been irreparably changed in a matter of minutes. Could love survive this kind of storm? And would he be able to step into the uncharted waters, not only for the sake of his family but for a child he had barely acknowledged? He took a deep breath, preparing to confront whatever came next, knowing it would take more than courage he needed to discover the true meaning of redemption. But not yet. The real challenge awaited. What path would he choose when faced with the truth at his own door? George stood at the edge of that moment, watching Sarah as she turned away. Her back was a fortress against him, and each step she took felt like a step away from the life they had built. The crowded ballroom buzzed around him, but he felt like he was in a soundproof bubble, unable to break through the deafening silence that had settled between them. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw Lisa shift uncomfortably. She looked almost like a ghost, pale and fragile, a reminder of the mistake that had unraveled everything. George's stomach twisted. How could he face her now, knowing the chaos her existence had wrought? Should I? He whispered to himself, unsure of how to approach her. But guilt clung to his skin like a heavy coat, weighing him down. He missed Sarah's warmth already, the way her laughter had once filled every empty space of his life. Now that laughter felt like a distant memory, replaced by the cold sting of betrayal. While Sarah found solace in her friends, George stepped toward Lisa, instinct pulling him closer despite the fear swimming in his gut. Can we talk? He asked, his voice hoarse. Lisa met his gaze hesitantly. Talk? Is there anything left to say? There was bitterness in her tone, a prick of anger at the heart of her anxiety. George wanted to scream that this wasn't what he wanted. He never imagined being pulled into this complicated mess of feelings and responsibilities. Please just let us figure this out. Figure what out? Her words hit him like a slap. Your life with Sarah? What about the mess we created? The crowd around them gestured, whispering behind their masks of shock. Every passing moment felt like being stuck in a horror film. George wanted to run away but was also too terrified to let go. His heart thudded in his chest as he looked at Lisa. I didn't want this, Lisa. I never intended for you to feel any of this. And yet here we are. She shot back, arms crossed tightly over her chest. You need to understand, George, this isn't just about you anymore. There's a child I know. He took a step closer, desperation marking his every move. I know, and I'm terrified. But I love Sarah. I need to fix this with her. The way Lisa stared at him was a mix of sadness and empathy, but it quickly morphed into something more steely. And what about me? What happens when the truth comes out? When Sarah learns how deep this goes? Her words were like ice, chilling him to the bone. He looked back towards Sarah. Her face no longer illuminated with love, but shadowed by defeat. Could he lose both women he cared about? A voice broke through the tension. George. One of his friends rushed over, eyes darting between him and Lisa. Are you okay? We heard. Well, I'm fine. Just give us a moment. Dude, this is bad, man. You're going to need to talk to Sarah. I know. The urgency in George's tone surprised him. Maybe he was finally realizing what was at stake. But the truth was like building a bridge over a chasm. Each step felt fraught with danger. He looked back at Lisa, an unspoken understanding passing between them. The ripple of uncertainty hung heavy in the air. He had to face Sarah, confront the broken pieces of their life together. But as he took a deep breath to find his courage, he couldn't shake the lingering question: what would happen to the child that now connected him to Lisa? With his heart racing, George glanced once more at Sarah, who stood amidst her friends, but he couldn't see love in her eyes anymore. Just hurt. And beneath it all, would she ever trust him again? As he took a step forward, ready to approach the woman he loved, a new thought struck him. Was he ready to bear the weight of two lives? The ballroom felt like it was closing in around him as he started that painful journey. Would love still await him on the other side? Or would only ashes of regret remain? George's pulse quickened as he stepped through the throng of elegantly dressed guests, each face morphing into a haze of judgment and disbelief. Every laugh, every whispered conversation pierced through him like daggers, reminding him of the lightness he had shattered. Sarah. He needed to find her as he crossed the dance floor. The music swelled and ebbed, the notes hanging in the air like suspended questions. He could barely grasp what lay ahead, each heartbeat echoing the weight of what he was going to confess. He spotted Sarah in the far corner, her laughter deceptively bright, masking the turmoil beneath. Her friends surrounded her, but they only seemed to accentuate her isolation. Sarah, he breathed, conscious of the way the name felt foreign on his tongue now. She turned, blinking away the dull joy from her eyes, instantly silencing the small party around her. What do you want, George? Her voice was steady, betrayed only by the slight tremor at the end. It was as if her heart was trying to escape, and the words trapped it instead. I need to talk to you. Alone. The plea hung in the air between them, thick with desperation and unspoken fears. The world around them faded away. Now, at a party? Her laugh held an edge, a sharp knife disguised as amusement. Yes, please, he urged, his heart thundering. No more avoidance, no more letting time pass as though it could erase the wrong he had done. With a hesitant nod, Sarah took a step back from her friends. The transition from a moment of laughter to solitude felt stark, like stripping the layers off a facade that had become unbearable. They slipped into a quiet hallway, a stark contrast to the clamor of the party. Here the shadows seemed to cradle their secrets, the air thicker with uncertainty. George took a deep breath, forcing the words forward against the choking grip of fear. I need to tell you something important, he began, his voice trembling. What is it? Sarah's eyes narrowed, the flicker of hope dampened by mistrust. There's been something going on. The weight of his words felt monumental. His throat constricted. Lisa is pregnant. Silence wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. George watched as confusion twisted through her features, followed by a wave of hurt that made his chest ache. How long? Her voice barely rose above a whisper, edged with disbelief. It wasn't he planned, it was a mistake, Sarah. I care about you. I love you. But this happened. Each confession felt like a brick added to the wall for which he feared there might not be any way back. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. So what are you saying? That you expect me to just accept it? To accept her? No. That's not. George ran a hand through his hair, overwhelmed. I want to fix this. I want to fight for us. For our future. But how can I trust you? The raw honesty in her gaze sliced through him. This is the ultimate betrayal, George. He stepped closer, needing her to see the depths of his remorse. I'll do anything to make it right to prove to you that you are the love of my life. A sudden flash of emotional turbulence danced in Sarah's eyes as she searched his face. Her defenses began to crack, but the very foundation of their life together felt at risk. How could she believe in us when the reality of the child loomed? Just give me time, Sarah. Please. I'll be the man you once loved. But time was a precious commodity that hovered just outside their reach, and the distance felt insurmountable. Would their love withstand this storm? Could trust be rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal? Stepping back, Sarah shook her head slowly, her heart at war with her logic. I don't know if I can be the person who picks up the pieces again. George felt the space between them grow, a chasm ripe with doubt and unresolved pain. What if this was the end? Would love be enough to pull them back from the brink, or had he already lost her for good? With silence thickening in the air, their fate hung like a thread, wavering precariously, and somewhere, demons of the past lurked, awaiting the moment to strike. George could feel the air grow denser. The laughter from the party faded into a dull murmur, like a distant storm breathing against the night. Sarah's eyes, once sparkling with laughter, now looked clouded and stormy. He tried to reach for her, to pull her back from this edge, but she instinctively recoiled. George, you don't get it. Her voice was suddenly sharper, breaking the fragile tension. You're asking me to ignore something unforgivable. How can I pretend that everything's okay? The hurt in her words struck him, each syllable a reminder of the chasm between them. He swallowed hard, desperation knotting in his stomach. I know it's not easy, but please just listen to me. I'm not asking for forgiveness right away. I just need a chance to explain. Explain what? How you made a mistake with someone else. What possible explanation could justify this? Her anguish danced on the razor's edge of rage, and he could see the rapid rise and fall of her chest. I know I don't deserve it, but I need you to understand a part of me was lost, and the moment I realized what I was risking, I did everything wrong. It all spiraled out of control. The words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered. This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about a future he was terrified of losing. She narrowed her eyes, seeking the truth beneath the desperation in his voice. And what does that mean for us? Is this child supposed to be a bridge between our love? Are you implying that I should be happy for you and that girl? No, that's not it at all. George's voice rose, panic surfacing. He took a step closer, attempting to bridge the emotional distance. This isn't about them, this is about what we have. My heart belongs to you, always has. I want to be there for you, for us. Sarah's expression softened slightly, but uncertainty clouded her features. You think love can just erase betrayal? You think it can put the pieces back together after they've shattered? I can't change the past, he replied, his voice barely a whisper. But I can try to create a better future. One where we're both happy, one where I make things right. You are everything to me, Sarah. A small tear rolled down her cheek, and the sight ignited something within George. Instinctively he reached out but paused, fearful to invade her space again, fearing she would step back. Instead he opted for words. I'll fight for you, for us. I'd rather lose my breath than lose you for good. For a moment Sarah stood frozen, weighing the gravity of his words. George held his own breath, hoping she could see the truth shining in his eyes. Sometimes I wish we could go back to that first date, she said, voice choked with sorrow. Everything felt so perfect then. It can be like that again, George asserted, his heart racing with every beat. We can find that joy again. I won't give up, Sarah. The silence stretched between them, interwoven with a million unspoken emotions. Then, just as quickly as it had come, the flicker of hope appeared to fade under the weight of reality. But what if you can't? She finally whispered, defeat dripping from her words. What if I can't? A wave of despair washed over him. Then we'll figure it out. Together. I can't promise it will be easy, but I swear I'll be here fighting every day. Just say you'll think about it. She started, hesitating as the party roared around them. An uncertainty glimmered in her gaze, and that fragile moment, where love hung thick like fog, the stakes transcended far beyond them. Could she allow herself to hope again? Or had George already carved their fate as he waded through his regrets? As George braced himself for her answer, He couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the depths of their struggles were only beginning to unveil. Would he be more than a shadow of his mistakes? Or would the truth of the unborn child echo more loudly than the love they once shared? Sarah's breath hitched, caught between 1,000 memories and the unknown void ahead. The party swirled around them as people laughed, danced, and shared frivolous secrets. But all she could focus on was the weight pressing between her and George. Would he ever understand the depth of her hurt? George, she began, the name feeling heavy on her tongue. I don't even know what to say. I feel like you're living in a different world. You talk about joy, about going back to the start, but what if that's just a fantasy? Can we really turn back time? His eyes softened, yet determination flared. I don't expect a fairy tale, Sarah. I know we have to crawl through the wreckage first. But I swear I'll be there with you every painful step. She shook her head, a wave of frustration crashing over her. It's not just about you and me anymore. There's a child involved, a life that grows in the shadow of our mistakes. How can I be okay with that? George opened his mouth to respond, but the silence between them spoke louder than any words. A fleeting moment of clarity washed over Sarah as she observed the party lights dancing across the walls, their glow mocking the turmoil within her. Are you really ready to be a father? She asked, her voice trembling. Because it seems like you're still trying to sort out being a partner. What guarantee do I have that you won't drift away again? He stepped closer, his earnestness almost palpable. I know I was wrong, and I know now what I want. I never wanted to hurt you, Sarah. I'm ready to take responsibility. I want to be there for both of you, for our family. The word family hung in the air, stunning her. The thought was both beautiful and terrifying. Could she really allow herself to envision a future with him? Just then, a loud explosion of giggles erupted from the adjacent room, pulling her attention momentarily. Friends were gathered around a table, sharing stories, and in that moment she felt utterly alone, as if she stood on the outside looking in. It should have been her joy, their achievements celebrated together, but it felt like an empty shell echoing through the hall. God, it hurts, she whispered, more to herself than to him, unable to keep the tremor out of her voice. I know it does, George said softly, his heart breaking at her pain. But do you really want to walk away without trying? What if we could make it together? And if it doesn't work, at least we won't be left with what ifs hanging over us. His sincerity lit a flicker of hope within her, but it was smothered by fear. What if we try and it just gets messy, eh? I don't think I could handle more heartache, George. Then let us face that together, he urged. I'd rather venture into the storm with you than stand in the calm alone. Tears stung her eyes as she grappled with the implications of his words. Could they really move forward? Or were they fooling themselves? Could she even trust him again? Please, he added, his voice thick with emotion. Just think about giving us a chance. That's all I'm asking. She took a step back, creating distance that seemed to echo their turbulent past. Everything felt too raw, too uncertain, and it scared her. Can we even talk about this now? She asked, her voice filled with vulnerability. At a moment passed, the noise of the party filling the silence like a backdrop to their unfolding drama. George searched her eyes, trying to gauge whether she was reaching for reconciliation or pushing away for good. Let us step outside. Just for a moment. We can find clarity there. With a nod, she reluctantly accepted his offer. The door to the outside world loomed ahead, promising a brief reprieve from the chaos inside. But would it also lead them towards a brighter dawn? As they stepped through, the cool night air surrounded them like a fresh start, proving that perhaps the most challenging battle was the one they needed to face side by side. Yet as they walked into the unknown, uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Would the next moments be filled with healing and understanding? Or would they open old wounds that could never heal? The night air was crisp, the kind that sent shivers down her spine but also cleared her mind. Sarah inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of the party drift away. The chirping of crickets mixed with distant laughter from inside, creating a strange cocktail of emotions. Being out here with George was almost surreal. The world felt full of possibilities, and yet it was frightening. Why did we end up here? She whispered, half hoping he wouldn't have an answer. How did we let it get so messy? George leaned against the railing, looking out into the dark expanse of the night. Life is messy, he replied softly, his eyes reflecting a complexity of emotions. We can't predict every turn. We just have to navigate it together. Sarah studied him, trying to figure out if he truly meant what he said. Together it sounds nice. But what does that really mean for us? What if it's just a catchphrase? It's more than that, he insisted, turning to face her fully. I'm ready to put in the work. But I need you to meet me halfway. She felt her heart rate increase at his plea. Was she ready to hand over the control she clung to so tightly? Could they both change enough to make this work? George, her voice trembled with emotion. I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive. And I need to know that you can stand by me even when the storms come. I promise, he said, conviction radiating from his voice. I won't back away this time. I'll stand by your side. His words were like a lifeboat thrown into turbulent waters. She wanted to leap for it, to grab on tight, but fear held her back. The thought of their past, the betrayals, the arguments, the nights spent wishing for something better loomed over her like a shadow. What if we fall apart again? Sarah asked, her eyes welling with tears. What if I trust you and you let me down? George stepped closer, bridging the gap between them. Then we get back up again, he said earnestly. We find our way. Together. His hand brushed against hers, sending warmth through her veins. Do you remember when we said we'd face everything together? I meant it back then, and I mean it even more now. We're stronger than we know. Sarah's heart swelled at the thought. If they could just unlock that strength, if they could lean on each other instead of turning away. As if sensing her hesitation, George took another step forward. What I'm asking for is a chance. A real chance, Sarah. Will you give it to me? She hesitated, weighing the risk in her heart. It was terrifying, yet it felt like a necessary leap. I want to, she said slowly, looking deep into his eyes. But I need time to sort through everything, my emotions, my fears. Take all the time you need, he replied gently. I just want you to know I'm here. Whenever you're ready, I'll be waiting. A flicker of warmth ignited her hope, but it was shrouded in the shadows of uncertainty. The future still held unanswered questions, and the warmth of this moment felt fragile. The laughter from inside faded. As she looked back towards the party, she felt a tug between two worlds, the chaos of love and the promise of a new beginning. Maybe stepping back into that celebration came with risks, but also the chance for renewed connection. Let us go back inside, Sarah finally suggested, her voice solidifying into a real decision. Maybe starting with small steps will lead us somewhere we never expected. Just then George reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers in a simple, yet breathtaking gesture. Felt right. But as they turned towards the door, Sarah hesitated. What awaited them behind that door? What if the past tried to drag them back? Would the night that had started with hope end in heartache? The answer to those questions seemed just out of reach as they stepped back into the light. As they stepped back into the party, the vibrations of laughter and music washed over them like a warm wave. The atmosphere felt alive but different, each note tinged with the echoes of their fragile conversation outside. Sarah glanced sideways at George, feeling the weight of their intertwined fingers. It was like holding on to hope, yet the fear of slipping away nagged at her in the corner of the room. Her friend Jenna spotted them and waved enthusiastically. A smile broke free from Sarah's uncertainty. Moments like this were what she had missed. As they approached, she found the courage to let the rush of sound fill her, at least for now. Look who's back. Jenna teased, grinning at them both. Did you miss the fireworks show? It's about to start. She gestured toward the patio where a group was gathering. The thought of laughter and lightness made Sarah's heart flutter, chasing away some of the darkness from their earlier conversation. George leaned in closer, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. You ready for this? He asked. The warmth of his breath against her ear sent a shiver down her spine, a reminder of everything they shared. Just for tonight, Sarah answered, her resolve strengthening. Let us enjoy what we have in this moment. As they settled into the crowd, she couldn't help but marvel at how easily the laughter came, like a long-forgotten melody that was finally back on the radio. They joined in conversations, the easy banter somehow grounding them again. Sarah felt George's presence beside her, and for the first time in a long time, she was actually present, aware of the joy around them. Suddenly, the lights dimmed and a hush fell over the crowd. Excited whispers filled the air, and Sarah felt a rush of anticipation. The firework display began, painting the night sky with brilliant colors. She glanced at George, who was watching, her face light up, a content smile softening his features, but as she turned her focus back to the sky, a flicker of unease crept in. Amid the exploding stars overhead, her mind danced back to the conversation they had outside. Would this fleeting happiness hold? Could they really put their past behind and start anew? The first explosion of color lit up her worry, just as easily as it lit up the sky. Green, red, blue, and orange burst overhead like beautiful promises. Yet, even as she smiled, a small part of her felt a flickering worry in her chest, like a firework about to extinguish too soon. "Hey, Sarah." Jenna interrupted her thoughts, nudging her gently. "You okay? You seem a bit lost." Sarah tore her gaze from the spectacle above, her smile faltering momentarily. "I'm fine, just enjoying this," she replied, hoping it sounded convincing. But before Jenna could press further, George slipped his arm around her shoulders. "Everything feels a little brighter tonight," he said, pulling her slightly closer, grounding her once more. They shared a moment of silence, watching the fireworks dance across the canvas of night. For a moment, they were two unwavering anchors in a stormy sea. But fear began to coil around her heart like smoke, clouding her thoughts. Would it be this easy? This peaceful? As the last firework fizzled out, silence hung in the air, a moment suspended in time that felt both profound and fleeting. It was then, under the dimming light of the celebration, that Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that some hidden truth was waiting for her, lurking behind the laughter, the fireworks, and even in George's gaze. What could that truth be? And if it was unearthed, would it pull them closer or push them apart yet again? The flickering memories of their conversations weighed heavily on her heart as uncertainty washed over her like ink spreading in water. As they stepped away from the crowd, ready to find a quieter place to breathe, she noticed something glinting on the ground, a forgotten firework casing. She picked it up, its surface slick from the remnants of something that had burst moments ago. Was that a mirror to her relationship? Beautiful and captivating at one moment, then reduced to an empty shell in the next? She clutched it tightly as they turned to leave the party behind them, for a moment, a decision that would shape their journey ahead. Were they about to face the most transformative moment of their lives? Or was this just another fleeting high? The tension in her chest warned her that the truth was coming. And it wouldn't wait. The crowd was thinning out now, the sounds of the party fading into the background. Sarah felt George's hand tighten around hers, a reassuring gesture as they stepped away from the chaos of laughter and lights. The cool night air enveloped them, a stark contrast to the warm, electric atmosphere indoors. "Where to?" George asked, glancing around, the glimmer of excitement still dancing in his eyes despite the subdued environment. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to summon the courage to voice not just a desire, but a need. "Let us find somewhere private. I need to talk, really talk," she replied, her voice firm yet tinged with hesitation. With a nod, George led her to a small, secluded corner of the patio, where the remnants of the fireworks still danced in her mind. The distant buzz of the party felt miles away. It was just the two of them now, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah was filled with warmth at the intimacy of it all. They sat on a wooden bench, and the quiet wrapped around them like a comforting blanket. Sarah looked out at the expansive sky, the stars twinkling like tiny jewels. Yet her heart was heavy with the complicated emotions swirling inside her. "I've been thinking about what we talked about earlier," she began, feeling the tremor in her voice. She could see George's expression shift, his brow knitting together. "Me too," he replied softly, searching her face. "It's hard to shake off the past, isn't it?" Sarah nodded, but the breath catching in her throat made it difficult to speak. "I thought I could just push it away, pretend everything was fine." But her words trailed off, lost in the weight of unspoken fears. "But," he pressed gently, his eyes steady on her, urging her to continue. "But it's not that simple," she admitted finally, her voice barely a whisper. "This moment feels good, but I can't keep pretending that I'm not terrified of what happens when the fireworks fade. What if we're not strong enough to make it through the harder parts?" George's gaze softened, his hand reaching up to brush her cheek tenderly. "We have to be strong together. We can't just focus on the shadows of our past. We need to forge a future one step at a time." Tears pricked at the corners of Sarah's eyes. "What if I can't let go of the past? What if I hold us back?" She felt the weight of her confession hanging in the air. And for a moment fear overshadowed hope. "You won, George assured her, his voice steady and resolute. "You're stronger than you think. We will figure this out." He watched her intently, as if searching for signs of hope. In that moment, she felt a flicker, a light illuminating the shadows that had clouded her heart. She clasped the firework casing tightly in her hand, the cold metal a reminder of both their past and potential future. "Maybe we can start by being honest," she suggested, her voice gathering strength. "If we're going to do this, we owe it to each other to lay everything on the table." He nodded, determination radiating from him. "What do you want to know?" Before she could answer, the sound of laughter erupted from inside, making her chest constrict with anxiety. Shadows of doubt swirled again as she wondered if they were really ready for this conversation. But the truth loomed larger than any fear she had. What if there's a part of your life that could change everything between us? Something I don't know. George's expression shifted. She could see something unspoken flickering behind his eyes, a heaviness that hinted at secrets yet to be revealed. "Sarah," he started, the air thickening with unexamined truths. The tension was palpable, electric. Just then, a loud bang echoed from inside, another firework breaking the quiet, and their moment of honesty teetered on the brink of revelation. What was the truth he was holding back? Would it be a shattering revelation, or something that could finally bridge the gap between them? Sarah's heart raced as she braced for the answer hanging delicately in the air. The night air crackled with the tension between George and Sarah. Outside the cacophony of laughter and celebration, the two stood on the precipice of something immense, a choice, a reckoning, a chance at redemption. "Sarah," he began, his voice low and urgent, "there are things I haven't told you. Things that shape choices I made." The words spilled out, an avalanche of honesty threatening to choke him. In that moment, George stripped himself of any facade. He was raw, vulnerable, and frightened. "What do you mean?" she asked, eyes wide with anticipation and dread. It felt like they were both holding their breaths, waiting for the other to plunge into the depths of truth. "I've avoided facing my past, Sarah," he said finally. "I thought distancing myself from it would make it easier for us. But it only caught up with me." He felt his heart race as he continued, "Before I came to you, there was a broken relationship that made me selfish." Sarah's brow furrowed, confusion settling over her features like a thick mist. "You mean before our marriage? Or, no, I mean recently," he admitted, the weight of his guilt thrumming painfully in his chest. "We were arguing so much, and in a weak moment I turned to Lisa. But it wasn't what I wanted. I was lost trying to find solace in the wrong places." George, her voice cracked like a fragile glass teetering on the edge of a shelf. "This doesn't make sense. If you love me, I do love you." He interrupted, urgency spilling from him. He reached for her hand, entwining his fingers with hers, grounding them both in the moment. "I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted to feel something real. Instead, I felt nothing." As his eyes searched hers, Sarah felt a tidal wave of emotions wrestle inside her. She couldn't decipher what this meant, or how it changed the landscape of their relationship. Everything felt murky, fragile. "But you have a child coming, George," she exclaimed, the turmoil surfacing. "What does that mean for us? You've opened wounds that were barely healing." "I know," he whispered, his voice trembling. "And I want to take responsibility for everything. The last thing I want is for you to feel like you're less important because of this. That child, I care about them because they're part of you and me." A flicker of understanding crossed her face. "You mean it? You're not just saying it?" The fear flecked her eyes began to fade. "I do," he vowed. "I want to find a way forward together. We have a chance to clear the wreckage, to rebuild something even stronger." Sarah took deep breaths, the weight of his honesty falling heavily on her heart. But in that weight, something began to shift. Her mind raced, grappling with hope laced with the remnants of betrayal. Could she allow this moment of vulnerability to bridge the chasm between them? "Can we?" She hesitated. "Tell each other everything? No secrets? No more running?" The way she spoke felt like a lifeline cast into turbulent waters, and George's eyes softened profoundly. He nodded slowly. The quiet intensity of the moment wrapped itself around them like an embrace. "Yes, yes, from now on we will face everything together." As they both exchanged silent promises, the shadow of doubt began to lift, allowing small slivers of warmth to seep back in. At that moment, The celebrations from inside erupted into another explosion of fireworks coloring the night sky. Bright bursts flashed overhead, illuminating the darkness, just as a whisper of hope ignited in their hearts. "Let us go in," Sarah suggested, still feeling the weight of their conversation. Yet her grip on George tightened, assuring him of the connection they were slowly rebuilding. "No more hiding. We'll face this together. Every part of it." His smile radiated warmth, something she desperately needed. Together they walked back inside, fingers still intertwined, ready to confront whatever came their way. The laughter swirled around them again, and for the first time that evening, Sarah felt her heart begin to heal. "Let us celebrate," George said, the apprehension in his voice softening. "Let us celebrate us, our journey, our choice to fight." And as they stepped back into the light, surrounded by friends and family, Sarah realized that they had begun to forge something new. With honesty, with love, and an unwavering commitment to one another, the fireworks of their future began to flicker to life. Where once there had been darkness, now there was possibility. This was their moment, a moment of truth, a moment of love, a moment of rebirth. And in Sarah's heart something shifted. The seeds of resilience had been planted anew, and although the path ahead would be rocky, she felt ready to embrace it one day, one step at a time. As they celebrated, the air rang with laughter and hope, serving as a reminder that love, when nurtured, could rise from the ashes. Now is your turn. You need to subscribe right now to the channel, so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep us going. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. And don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who you know need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.